Well, hey, Jeff, how you doing? You sound a little different there. You sound really happy.
Oh, boy, am I ever.
Are you doing like a Mickey Mouse impression?
No? Why would you? Excuse me. No? Why would you ask that? I mean, is this better?
You think you could go back? You think you could go back to the Mickey Mouse voice?
Good Lord.
Turn that radio dial.
What you talking about, Wood?
It's time for the most Gen X podcast there is.
Real tomato ketchup?
Not even close, right?
You found it.
Never been so happy in my whole life.
It's just Jeff and the dazzlingly uncool.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
And now, it's just Jeff.
What up, my brother? Here we go again.
How you doing there, Jeff?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good.
What's on your mind, bro?
You know, I was thinking the other day of a memory that we both have, and I just want to see if you can guess what I'm talking about.
Okay.
What are the words that any young kid wants to hear and every NFL quarterback wants to say?
Let's play putt-putt.
Huh?
I was thinking something more like, we're going to Disney World.
That would make me think of putt-putt, too. Yes, we're going to Disney World. What made you think of that?
You know what it is? I think I was watching something the other day about Disney World, and I remembered, I'm pretty sure it was 1978, because I'm pretty sure we had lived in Conroe for a year, and then our parents told us, I think probably around December,
Okay.
that we were going to be going to Disney.
So that would put
We went
me in
June.
Me in maybe like the 5th grade.
You'd have been,
Excuse me.
you were a rising 5th grader. I was a rising 6th grader. So I
And
would have been like 11, and you were just
Okay.
about to turn 10, I think.
So T-Man would have been 7,
But-
so he was old enough to walk the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
he came.
Well, no, of course
And
he came. Yeah.
but I just remember when they told us that, we had several months to think about it.
Yeah.
And you almost couldn't believe that you were actually going to go there and actually see all the things that you saw on TV, or that you saw, even though it wasn't the same castle, but watching Wonderful World of Disney on
Right,
Sunday nights
right.
and seeing the fireworks go over that castle, you're like, we're going to see that.
So when did they tell us about it?
I don't remember exactly, but I know there were several months where they said, hey, this summer we are going to Disney World. And so there was just this anticipation building and building and building.
Yeah.
You just couldn't believe we were going.
Man,
And,
I'm glad I didn't end up getting a roll top desk.
Yeah, you got to go on that trip.
I got to go on that trip.
You got to go.
5th grade,
But,
they
I mean,
didn't
it
start
was-
giving out. Yeah.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
But we loaded up literally the family truckster, an old, not an old, it was new at the time, but a Buick Century wood-paneled station wagon.
We drove?
We drove from Conroe, and then we went to Disney, and then we went and visited our friends, the Martins, who lived in Georgia at the time, and then drove home from there.
Sometimes I wonder about what goes in my head because I have no recollection of driving to Disney World.
There's a big difference between being 11 years old and being 9 in terms of remembering that kind of stuff.
Let's be
I
honest.
just remember
There's a
so
big
many
difference
things.
in being Rocky and being Jeff in terms of remembering stuff.
I have really a lot of memories about just the drive.
Yeah.
Even because I remember we did the drive from Atlanta home nonstop. And I remember we had, in the back of the station wagon, we just had all the seats down, so it was just a big, huge deck back there.
Well,
We were all
there's got to be
just
a
kinda-
lot of luggage.
Well, there was luggage, but we had room just to kind of lay around in there.
Okay.
So I remember like I read an entire book, like a paperback book. It was a book about the Black Sheep Squadron, like Baba Black Sheep, you know. But I was so proud of the fact that I had read. It was probably like this thick. It was probably like a 120-page book or something. But I read the whole thing, and I just felt so proud of that. And that was all in that like really long drive coming on. But anyway, I mean, that wasn't the point of the trip. But do you remember much about that trip to Disney World?
Well, real quick about that trip home from Atlanta, I remember Dad saying, "Rocky, I'm proud you read that book," and "Jeff, I'm proud you didn't toot that much." So, no, I really
that
don't.
was when I think Dad might have had a case of Corona then. So his sense of smell must not have been good enough to detect what was going on.
He probably drove the whole way.
I bet he did. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And I think we hit like a big storm on the way home or something like. I have a few memories of that.
Golly, I don't remember. So okay, I don't remember Disney World. I remember Disneyland in high school, but I don't remember Disney World so much. So
Disney World, it was just so cool because it was the first time you'd ever like walked in and you're like looking around and you see Main Street and then you see the castle and you're thinking to yourself, we got to go to Space Mountain, although deep inside you're kind of scared of Space Mountain. You're like, I know we got to do it. I want to do it, but I'm scared to death. I think there's a chance we could die on this, So you had this like just childlike, right? I think you almost didn't get on.
I think
that happened. I think we got all the way up to the front and we'd waited in line for like hours. And I think it was just about time to get in, and you were like, "Dad, I don't want to do it." And he was like, "You're doing it." we waited for that long, but
it seems like what I remember is getting in that car, and you could kind of look up and see these like red lights, and I guess it was the car before us, and I'm like, "We don't go there, do we?" Click. The guy's like, "Yeah, you do." I'm like, "Oh, motherfucker!" And I think it was just one long the whole time.
I think you were doing that the whole time. I think that was true.
That scarred me.
So, but we survived, right?
Oh, we survived.
And then we probably went. I'm not sure we went back and rode it again. I'm not sure. I think that was maybe it took everything we could to like build up the courage to ride that.
Okay.
And then of course, then you're on the little conveyor belt going out of the ride, and you're on the like World of Tomorrow, right? And you're seeing all these like outlandish scenarios of like the home of the future.
In Space Mountain?
One of them, it's like as you're coming off Space Mountain, like as you're leaving the ride, you're going on this conveyor belt.
My eyes are probably still closed.
Probably.
Yeah.
But one of the things I remember vividly was like a girl in her bedroom, like laying on her stomach on her bed with like some kind of little TV screen, and she's talking to one of her friends.
Good Lord.
And you're
what
like,
kind of ride was this?
No, I mean, like, she was like talking on the phone, but it was a video call, right?
Yeah, like an iPad.
And like you could just pick like she was on her bed, she was she was kind of kicking her legs, like talking, and you're like, that's never gonna happen. We're never gonna see. We're not gonna see something like that in our lifetimes.
Isn't that crazy?
Really crazy.
Now I remember going to Disneyland. That
was yeah, I mean, the things that I remember, like Toby was pretty little, so he didn't. Yeah. I don't think he got to go on. But I don't know. He probably couldn't
from size.
You know what? In those, I think Dad were on it. It's probably back in those days. They probably said, "Hey, you guys, can you just watch him while we go on the ride?" And one of the attendants.
I think you're right. I think it probably was. Mom probably handed her purse. Here, watch my purse.
Here, have my purse and my son, and we'll be back. I really think that might have happened. It was probably like something that happened all the time. But
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but I remember like he would go like on the Dumbo ride, and I mean it wasn't fun for us really, but you were like, we are on that Dumbo thing with those big ears. You see that on the commercials, and then the teacups, and you're spinning around.
I
loved like. You hated the teacups?
I don't like. That's the one thing I don't like is getting dizzy. Yeah, I hated the teacups when we went years later with families on the cruise. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, as an adult, it's hard to tolerate. But then they always had these like second tier rides. You had like the big ones like Space Mountain and the Jungle Cruise and Haunted Mansion, and then the second tier were like your Peter Pan and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, yeah.
Right? And
Hall
I thought
of
those were
Presidents.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Hall of Presidents was so cool.
It was air conditioned.
It was air conditioned. Yeah. I mean, Mom and Dad loved like the Hall of Presidents and stuff. Or it's a Small World. Yeah. They loved It's a Small World because it was cool in there, and you're just drifting along, and the kids are occupied for a little bit. And
whoever was in the car with me probably had a tough time. Like, what the hell is that? Who the hell is that? What's going on there? I think It's a Small World probably messed with my mind more than Space Mountain when all is said and done. Yeah. So.
It might have. It might have. But I have a Disney story with my own son when.
Really?
Well, very similar to because when Dad was, we'd waited for 2 hours in line for Space Mountain. At the last minute, you said, "I'm not going to go." He's like, "Oh, you're going."
You're going.
And so you went. We had that same experience, and actually, you were there, Ben, and we waited in line to go on the Alien Encounter.
Alien Encounter. Yeah. I do. Yeah.
I mean, I think we waited at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we're in the line, and my son Taylor and your son Ben, we're just like, "Oh, this is gonna be great," And we start getting closer, and you get inside, and they have like little models of the aliens and stuff, and Taylor kind of like starts saying, "Dad, I don't know about this. This is kind of scary." "Oh, don't worry about it. You're fine," And then we get real close, and he's like, "Dad, I don't want to do this." And I was the same thing, like, "Oh, you're doing it."
Oh, you're doing it,
And
pal.
so I bring him in there. Oh, what a father of the year. So we get in there, and it's one of these things where you remember it, where they're giving like a presentation, and then all of a sudden all the lights go off, and they're like, "Oh no, something went wrong. The power went out." And it's all dark, and you start hearing like behind you, like the aliens right behind you, and then you feel like warm water falls on you when somebody got killed, and like he was so traumatized from that. I would have saved time if I'd have just said, "Okay, I'm going to write off that last 2 hours of my life that I waited in line. You guys go on the ride. We'll meet you at the end." Because I definitely lost more than 2 hours of sleep of him coming in at night like, "Dad, I'm having a nightmare."
Well,
I felt so bad.
Like we said years before, you could have said, "Hey, buddy, will you watch my son? Here's my wallet." That kind of makes me off kilter. Yeah.
Right.
Let me tell you, I remember that trip. Ben did not like Bug's Life. We were watching a Bug's Life show, and I had to go out, sit there, and watch him play with the dancing fountains while you guys were in there enjoying a Bug's Life. And I'm like, what happened to me? Where did I go wrong?
So we made up for it on the
On the what?
What's that?
We made up for it when?
I say we made up for it with they liked the Buzz Lightyear thing, and so did we.
Yeah.
Riding that little thing and shooting the Buzz Lightyear. That was cool.
My fondest.
So what was your memory?
My fondest memory of Disney World or Disneyland. So we went to Disneyland in high school, right? You remember that? And we both, and I think we've talked about this in one of our podcasts, but I'm gonna say it again. We bought a tank top, Mickey Mouse tank top. It was sweet, right? It was
right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Fast forward years later, 20 years later, and I found that tank top, and we were all going, Mom, Dad, your family, my family. I don't think Toby made it for some reason, but we went on the Disney cruise, and I told Kyle, I said, "I'm going to wear this tank top and a pair of shorts, socks high, and I'm going to go next door to their hotel room and say, let's go." Dude, this tank top looked like a Picasso painting. Like his ear was here, His eyes were like here. It was the scariest thing in the world. And I don't want to say that I put on a few pounds, but you know my most, what I remember most about Alien Encounter? So in the 2 hours we were standing in that line, you probably don't remember this, but I'd pick someone out in the crowd and say, hey, Rocky, do I look like that? You're like, God, let Jeff. You don't remember that probably, right? And here's like some probably big old boy.
Kind of.
You know, I'd pick a guy that was just, you know, pushing three bills. And do I look like that? And you're like, no, Jeff, you don't look like that. I didn't want to pick the guy that
you were traumatized from the.
Oh, yeah. Oh my!
You were traumatized from the Picasso.
I was, and I was.
One thing I do remember, like not. I know, like we thought we were getting fat at that time because we were in our like late 20s.
Exactly,
and we thought we were fat, but now you look at pictures. Yeah, we had some handles.
Right.
You look at pictures and we're like, oh my gosh, we're bean poles, you know. But not from our high school trip or anything like that, but like building up to our trip as 9 and 11 year olds.
Yeah.
Do you remember like who was your character? You had like
Donald
who was
Duck.
You were Donald Duck and I was Mickey Mouse.
You were Mickey Mouse, yeah. But
yeah.
I think when all was said and done, and maybe this was Toby's favorite, but there was like a Jugtown band, you know, and there was a Big Owl or something like that.
Country Bear.
Was that Toby's favorit?
No, he became my favorite.
We got
on that trip.
And that's what I thought. Yeah.
I had a Big Owl glass.
Yeah.
The Country Bear Jubilee or Jamboree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Big Owl would come out and he's like, blood on the saddle.
They were singing the blues.
So he was my favorite. Yeah.
And that was
so we bought glasses. He was my favorite, so that was my glass up in the you know, the cabin.
I just remember one of us falling in love with Country Bear, and I was like, was that Toby? No. So, yeah. You know, it's funny because when you go to the, you know, the parks as an adult with your young children, they're like, hey, Ariel's not a cartoon. And I'm like, hey, Ariel's not a cartoon. You got that, you know?
Damn right she's not. You guys go over to A Bug's Life. I'm going to visit with Ariel here a little bit.
Hey, guys, I got a big surprise for you. We're going to go to the princess dinner. We paid extra to go see all the princesses.
Do you remember, like, with our kids, like, going around and they had their autograph books, right? They're getting autographs from all the characters, right? One of my friends in medical school talked about how he was a huge Winnie the Pooh fan.
Yeah.
When he was little, and they were taking him to, you know, to Disney World, and he just wanted to meet Winnie the Pooh. And he's there, and he said, I remember, like, looking at the, you know, Mickey Mouse and all that and thinking something's not right. He said, then Winnie the Pooh came out, and I was like, he's like 5 feet tall. He's taller than me. He's like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, Christopher Robin must be a giant. I don't know what this 100-acre woods. He said he was like scared to death.
Oh my gosh!
Just wanted to get out of there.
My favorite story about Disney World is Norm Macdonald when he says, you know, Mickey Mouse is sitting there holding a baby. And he drops the baby and it lands on his big shoe, right? And everyone's like, oh my God, we're so worried. Well, Mickey's just sitting there with a smile on his face. It's like, what on earth? So
like nothing happened. Just a big smile on his face.
Just a big smile on his face.
Oh gosh.
Oh man.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't tell you this. I've got a surprise for you.
Okay.
My buddy Don knows more about Disney World than anybody I think I've ever met.
All right.
And he said he would come on and do a segment with us.
So is he here?
Let's take a break and I'll see if I can line him up.
Can't wait.
Jeff, what a special treat we have.
Okay.
So we just reminisced about our Disney memories.
Right.
Which you know, who doesn't, as a kid, just love going to Disney World?
Everybody.
Well,
Everybody.
we have got Don Jack with us today. Hello, Don. You know Don.
Thank you for having me on. I do appreciate that.
You know Don.
I know
So Don and I have known each other for a long time. We met in England when we were
By
both
accident.
by accident stationed there.
Yeah, he hit
with
my
the Air
car with
Force.
his car.
It did not happen.
Well, that's right. I hit your car with my car. I'm sorry. It's because we're on the other side of the road.
That's right.
I was
Well, as
thinking-
you can see behind Don, he's got way more military awards than I ever had, and you can see his symbol back there. So he is a drummer. We played in a band together in England, and he kind of got Pete bested, but that's a story for another day. You know, but if it hadn't been a 2-star general that wanted to play the Skins, it would have never happened. But you know, anyway,
He showed up at where I worked in Montgomery, and I said, "Do you remember me?" And he went, "No." He walked
What?
away. That's what he did.
Can I ask you a
I said,
quick
"Hey,
question?
remember me?"
that's terrible. Yes.
It sounds to me like he might have been a 2 Ringo star general.
No,
He was Pete Best.
not even.
He was a 2 Ringo star
2
general.
Ringo stars.
Enjoying the pun, but he was more of a Colton Hampton, and that's definitely another's day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quarryman guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of transitioning between the Quarrymen to the Silver Beetles.
Sure. Wow.
Man.
Well, anyway, the reason we have Don on, there's so many reasons we could have him on. His encyclopedic
I
knowledge
agree.
of all things Beatles and monkeys and just about most other
Primates,
things too.
band,
Don
both?
is probably one. Huh?
I was asking, is he like a primates band or both? The monkey, you said he's a genius with
Probably a little
monkeys.
Little both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Monkeys,
both throw feces.
Beatles, Weird Al Yankovic, you name it, I got the top 3.
He knows them all.
I love it.
But he also knows, I think, more about Walt Disney World than probably anybody you'll ever meet that isn't like a top executive in the company.
So is this just
I
something
mean-
that you've researched over time, or? I mean, you
Don,
just...
how many times have you been to Disney? How many times have you been to Disney World?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question.
Because I think you have a
and
count.
I do have a count, and I'm going to include not just my trips to Disney World, but also to Tokyo Disneyland, to California Disneyland, and to Paris Disney, 256 visits. And interestingly enough, I'm going to show you a couple of things here. These are a couple of buttons that I got. This was on my 214th visit. This was on my 225th visit. Every time I go there, occasionally they'll say to you, "So why are you here today?" And I would say, "I don't know why I'm here today, but it's my 225th visit." And they would pull out a button, they would write that on there and say, "Go, here you go."
Wow.
So, kind of a cool little thing to have. I don't have one from my 250th, which would have been nice, but they didn't ask any questions at the.
Oh, all right.
Well, they did ask a question: "Are you paying cash, check, or food stamp?"
Right.
Okay. And then they said, "Over there, that's where you get in line for the new ride called It's a Broke World After All."
It's a broke world after all. Yeah.
I said when I went to Disney
But,
World, they gave me a button that said "I'm special," and I got to cut in lines. It was great. So over 250 times.
Over 250 visits, and my very
That's
first
fantastic.
visit was in June of 1977. And a little memento here to kind
1
of
year before we went.
commemorate that.
Okay.
Don't even know if you even remember this. This is a ticket book.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ticket, the B, the C, the D.
Oh,
These
yeah.
are
Oh, there
the
you go.
tickets that you had to use to get on the ride.
Yeah.
Really?
And we actually, I have quite a few of these. My mom saved them when we were done. We would, whatever was left over. This book actually it's a 10 ticket book, and it's actually got 9. The only thing missing is the the top e-ticket. So we went on one of the really cool rides. So she gave those to me to kind of keep in my collection, and I thought that's kind of cool to have because they don't do these anymore. But you can take these to Disney, and they'll give you the equivalent value in time to go in the park. So like they might say, well, this was worth about $10, so we'll knock $10 off your trip.
I think
that's crazy.
I have these old guidebooks. I'm just going to pull out this one. This one's from '79. This was the second year I went. And this is the way that like you'd go in there and they'd give you the map to the park, and it had all these cool things about what tickets certain rides took. And sorry, it's kind of hard to open up and stuff.
Wow.
The map of the park, or all it was Magic Kingdom back then.
Yeah, only Magic Kingdom.
So
there's the Haunted Mansion.
Quick question. Yeah. That ticket book that you had, were you only allowed to ride each ride once? I mean, was each ticket for a particular ride?
You could ride each ride for as many tickets as you had. So on this one, if you can, I know it's hard to read because they wrote it in some weird font, but this was the e-ticket. This had the best, like the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Haunted Mansion, stuff like that. And you would tear this ticket off and you'd go to the Haunted Mansion, you'd give it to them. And then when you had no more e-tickets, you went on the rides for like the D. And like you can see I've got a few D tickets in this book. There's like 3 or 4 in there. And the A ticket was like the little thing down Main Street, you know, like the bus or the horse carriage. And the B ticket, I think, had like, you know, Peter Pan and stuff like that.
But did they take your ticket?
Which was one of my favorites.
What's that?
Did they take your ticket?
They took your ticket, right?
Yeah. Once you went on the ride, you gave the ticket. So after I used 10 tickets, my day was done, unless I bought more tickets.
But there might have been more than one e-ticket in there.
Yeah, I think there were 3 e-tickets per book, because that was the one that everybody wanted to go on, were the e-ticket rides.
Isn't that something?
It was Space Mountain, Haunted Mansion, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which isn't even there anymore. So yeah, once you used all your tickets, you either went and bought a new book of tickets, and this book in '77 cost $6.75.
Wow!
So you got 10 rides for $7.
So you grew up not far from the park.
It was about a 3-hour drive.
Oh, I didn't realize. Man, that makes the commitment even that much greater. Because now, what about like as you grew up a little bit? Because I know some of the stories that are coming.
Right.
But as you grew up a little bit, did you always live 3 hours away?
Yeah, we lived in Sunrise, Fort Lauderdale area, so it was about 200 and some odd miles, and you just get on the turnpike, head north, and to us that was not a big drive. I don't know why, because it would be like we'd get up in the morning on a Saturday, let's go to Disney World, pack in the car, drive up there, do our stuff, and come back home in the evening. So.
Now, in the era that included these booklets that your mom would get for you, I'm thinking that you were the typical, wide-eyed youngster going on all the rides, looking at all the characters and doing all that, but pretty much staying where you were supposed to stay.
Yeah, Mom and Dad kept a tight rein on us. It wasn't until like the 80s when you started going with your buddies. Yeah.
So you have seen parts of Disney World that most people have not seen.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. The very first thing I ever saw that I probably shouldn't have seen was on the train. The train actually circumvents the entire park, so you can go around the park. But if you jump out to the left, you're like inland. There's grass and rocks and like no rides or anything. We did that. So we're kind of walking through the jungle of Disney, so to speak. Yeah, and we're trying to find our way back, and then we come emerging up, and like there's people. So I thought, hey, that was kind of cool. That was a little different. And then we would go on different rides, and we would actually climb off the ride and climb around in the ride. On the Haunted Mansion, we would get out of the car, walk around the gravestones. We'd take pictures of us doing all this stuff, so we had evidence.
But I would say the closed caption cameras.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
That's brave, man.
But well, I mean, I think that whatever statute of limitations there is probably passed, and it's also not like I'm breaking any I'm not breaking any new ground here. I've seen the pictures posted on your socials and all that, so I'm not outing you in terms of like somebody from Disney is going to show up at your door and say, "You owe us a couple of those e-tickets, buddy."
Well,
let's just say from what I heard, I was going to say from what I've heard, the women who like to show their boobs on roller coasters, that's child's play compared to some of the stuff you've done.
No, couldn't hold a candle.
Couldn't hold a candle.
It became a goal of ours.
What am I talking about? You've never seen those? Go online and see women that flash their.
Oh yeah.
You know those roller coasters now? They take pictures of like when you're coming down the big hill.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of women who would flash their boobs at that time, and I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
All right.
There actually used to be a site called flashmountain.com. I don't know if it's even around anymore, but you weren't supposed to get that picture on Splash Mountain where the girls would do, and the park employees would sneak the pictures out and send them to people, and they would post them. And so, there's a lot of pictures of girls doing whatnot.
Interesting. All right.
It had become a goal of ours to try to find a way to get into the park for free. And I'm going to show you this here real quick. This is like a mid 80s style pass where they would see where you would and they would stamp your I saved all my passes. That's one of the ways I could get my count pretty accurate. But they would stamp your pass. So one day we bought a 4-day pass. I said, let me try something. I got a piece of Scotch tape. I cut it perfectly, taped it on to the spot where they stamped, went through, they stamped. They didn't stamp the card. They just went through, pulled it off. Did that 5 times on a 4-day pass, and I still hadn't used up the first day. So I thought, this is cool. Then they started stamping the pass, and it would chip a little side out, like, the old time cards. All right, can't do that anymore. So then our next way of doing it was we'd go to where the band would set up, and that was near Tomorrowland. And I would wear a Zildjian shirt or a drum thing or whatnot, and I'd start talking with them, and, let me help you, and I'd start helping them move, and so we'd get in the park. And we thought, that's kind of cool, but we can't do that every time, because we wasted an hour talking to these guys, and it was a pitiful day. But the most, I want to say the most exciting and dangerous was 2 times we tried to stay in the park after it closed. The first one just in the woods, and they found us pretty quickly, and they ushered us out. But the second one, and the most dangerous one, because they go through the park and they do all their stuff at night, and we were just kind of in the woods area, not like really deep, just enough where they heard us or something, and they had flashlights and they came out.
Busted.
So maybe we had the cameras going. But the other one was the locker, and I know Rocky's heard the locker story.
This is insane.
Was not thinking about how bad this could be. What if this place caught on fire? So we rented the locker, and it's the one where you go get the little key and you put it in, you put your quarters in, and then you go and you come back and you turn it, the quarters drop. I got inside the locker, and the plan was that my friend was supposed to go and go home and then come back the next day and open the locker. And worst case scenario, they're going to open it anyway. Well, they didn't. I spent from 1 a.m. until 11 a.m. because they overslept the next day in the locker in Disney World, in Magic Kingdom, and so cramped up. For me in there, I'm in there like this. So I stayed there all that time. It was horrible. And the look on the people's face when my friend opened up the locker and got me out, it was hysterical. Well worth the pain and the agony, and I never did it again.
That is.
Now you say you were in there
remarkable.
Now you were in there from 1 a.m. Like the park closed before 1 a.m.
No, in the summertime the park would stay open till 1 a.m.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
So you climb into that, and he goes home 3 hours away.
No, he goes home to the hotel because we would stay in the hotel.
All
if
right.
we were doing a multi-day visit, we would get a hotel room up there.
And he overslept.
He overslept. Oh my gosh, I was irritated.
So
I mean, you heard people out there like getting into other lockers and stuff, right?
Typically, what they do is if there's not a key in there, they get a key and they open it and they empty the contents.
I see.
You should have picked your stuff up. For whatever reason, they didn't do that, and I heard them doing it, but they didn't do the area where I was in.
And you were thinking if they had done that, can you imagine the poor
Well,
kid that works there that opens it?
I was
You-
hoping because
So they would have just thrown you out, and you were like, well, at least I can move.
Well, I couldn't think of how bad something would be. I mean, if even going to jail, I mean, it would be much better than the locker. So I was really kind of hoping they would open it and then and I'd say, I don't know what happened, play dumb.
Surprise!
I don't know
I
how
can't
this
have
happened.
story.
I don't know.
But I did notice. I noticed a lot of stuff about Disney that didn't make sense. Like the workers would act weird about certain things. So there was a ride that was called If You Had Wings, and it eventually turned into the Buzz Lightyear shoot 'em up ride.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ride is the same, but you sat in this buggy, and they had these little foam pillars that were along the way. And I guess in case somebody were to fall out, they wouldn't get hurt. I'm not really sure. But the ride is coming up to a big tunnel, and there's this foam pillar, and it's about, I want to say it's about this high. I reach out, I grab it, and it's Velcroed down, so it goes rip. I put it in the car. So now it's in the car with us. We go through the whole ride. At this time, it's still called If You Had Wings. We get to the end. Now, they open the car. They pull the thing forward. This thing is there. I pick it up, and I put it under my arm, and it looks like a big torpedo. I have to go through a turnstile. I say goodbye to the guy. He waves goodbye to me. I walked around the park all day. People, where'd you get that? I'd like to get one of those. I throw it in the bin.
I'd like
At
to
night,
get
I
one.
walk out of the park. I'm still carrying this thing.
You don't have it. Come on.
And this was the If You Had Wings colors. It was the Eastern blue with the yellow.
That
And
is
there's
awesome.
the bottom. And this is it. It's just a big old
You know why you
bumper.
I know why you had to carry that all day.
Why is that?
You had to carry it all day because it wouldn't fit in a locker.
It
Which is
wouldn't
more
fit in the
impressive.
So nobody said anything. I couldn't believe it. I thought, you gotta be kidding me. I'm throwing this thing around. You're not saying anything about it? So
He must be real good at throwing footballs.
That is wild. I just love the fact that some people saw you with it and said, hey, I'd like to go get that.
yeah. Do you even know what it is? You just want it because I have it? Is that what it is? I'll sell you mine for $50.
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh.
There are not too many stories.
Well, that is amazing.
Yeah, there aren't too many stories that build up to the point to where you're going, oh, come on, and provides the pillar. You're like, that's awesome. I mean,
That's way more than I expected.
Yeah.
I was like waiting for the locker story. And
Have either of you been to Epcot before?
yeah,
Okay.
I know you climbed out like in Spaceship Earth or whatever,
yeah,
right?
in Spaceship Earth, they got this guy up there. He's carving on a pillar, and a friend said, "Hey, I dare you to climb up there." And this is way up there. It's not like just I'm standing there high. I climbed all the way up there. I look back. He's way down there, and he's taking pictures of me. But my friend Jamie's got the best shot. We were both off the ride, and we were doing something, and we had to get back to the ride because we're about to lose our car. And we had this system where we would run and follow the motion of the car and then jump, literally leap in the air like we're walking in the air. And I got a picture of him in mid-stride leaping into the car so that you wouldn't fall or roll or get hurt. You would actually walk into the car, but it was in a leap. And I have that picture of him. It is so cool. It's the best shot we had.
So of the 256 times you've been to the park, are those paid visits or do those include your stamp that you peeled the tape off?
I included the freebies.
hey, that's
Because it was-
admirable. I
As you
mean, I think
should.
that makes it even more
As you
impressive, to
should.
be honest with you. Hey, we can all pay.
Yeah.
We can all pay to get 250 times. You
right.
you earned them. You earned them.
I just want to think that at some point, like, enough people went into one of the little souvenir shops on Main Street, USA, that they started selling those big. They made it into a character, like that was some kind of the yellow band was like some kind of like face mask.
It was a marketing decision. We had to sell mini versions.
What I can see is them going
Another-
in
you know,
and
another
like,
thing I
Oh my gosh, that was great, Don.
they're gonna go in and like at
I was
the,
saying, another
at
thing
the
I
end of the
found-
night they're gonna go in and like, you know, make sure everything's good on We Can Fly, and there's a pillar missing. They're like, cut it out, boys, bring in Buzz Lightyear, shut her down, shut her down.
What do we do? It's over.
Shut her down.
I used to try to find money-saving ventures when I was at Disney because it got expensive and parking was like $15 at one point, and I had to go to one of the hotels. We were meeting somebody, and as we were leaving, I looped around. I'm coming out to get back on the highway, and it said Magic Kingdom parking, and for whatever reason, I was in that lane, so I had to follow it around. I hope they don't make me pay again. There was no pay because you're in the park. It just took you to the parking lot. So the next day when we came back, I said, wait a second, let's just try this. Get up to the gate. I said, I'm going to the Shades of Green, which was the military hotel. Showed them my ID, and they said, okay. I went in, didn't go to the Shades of Green, went all the way around, got in the left lane, went in the parking lot. From 1993 until 2016, I never paid for parking. In fact, I didn't even go to Epcot or the other place. Went right to the Magic Kingdom. I'd always park for free and then get on the bus and go over because I was not going to spend $20 for my car to sit there all day.
That is
an amazing find. Even leaving the park, people went all the way to the castle to get on the express monorail, which had to stop at the hotels. If you went to the monorail that had to stop at the hotels, which is a loop, has to go to the ticket center anyway, there was no line. So I would walk all the way down, get in line, and I could see this line extending all the way to the back of the room. What are they doing? And no one says anything. Oh, no, that's going to the hotels. We don't want to go there. There's a hotel here and a hotel here. It's got to go through this spot first. It's not like they can just fly over. They got to go around in a circle. There's people at the ticket center who wants to go to the...
So if you're planning your next trip to Disney World and you want to save a few bucks, go out to www.teflondon.com. You got away with everything.
When's the last time you've been there, Don?
The last time we were there was actually, technically, and I didn't count this as a visit. Technically, I was there this June. They were closed, but I went to the Disney Village, or they call it, it used to be Downtown Disney, then it was Disney Village, Disney Springs.
Okay.
So I don't count that as a visit, but the truest last visit was 2019 in June.
Yeah.
And I had a great streak going from 79 to 2014. I never missed at least once a year. And I was very proud of that. My son from 96 to 2014 never missed a year from his entire life. And then in 2014, I started working at Chase, couldn't get the time off to do it. So that year broke my streak.
Now does your son have stories? Does your son have stories?
Not like I do. not like I do, but I mean, I did just for his entertainment purposes. I would jump off the rides. I'm 40 some odd years old. Here's this little kid sitting in the thing.
I learned it from watching you. We're on
Pirates of the Caribbean, and my son says, "Dad, you said you used to jump off the rides." I said, "Yeah, watch." Where the dog has the keys in his mouth, I jumped off, got a picture with the dog, and my son's laughing his head. I want to do this. I said, "No, you're only 12. You're not going to do that. Get hurt."
Awesome.
So, but yeah.
Well, this has been enlightening. Thanks for joining us, Don.
Yeah.
I love the fact that of all the money that you saved by pulling your antics, the fact that you saved a quarter by hiding in a locker is the greatest story of my life. They'll never get that quarter back, and you'll never get that spine. You'll never get that spine straight again.
Never.
No. Well, I'll have to go see Rocky. I know he can fix those kind of things.
Absolutely. That's what I do.
That is awesome.
All right. Farewell, guys.
All right.
It's time for closing thoughts with Jeff. And now, here's Jeff.
We've all tried to figure out ways to beat the system. In fact, I consider myself a first ballot Hall of Famer. But others think it's time I retire. However, as long as there are systems to be beat, I feel I owe it to my fans to beat them. But on today's show, I might have met my match. Look, I've never been shy when it comes to creating hijinks. I've done it at home, school, even church. But I never even thought about pushing the limits at the happiest place on earth. In fact, had this show been longer, I'm sure we would have heard another great story or two. But I can't help but think, had Walt himself heard this episode, his cryogenically frozen head would roll over in his deep freeze storage bin. Until next time, oh, boom!
Thank you for listening to the Just Jeff and the Dazzlingly Uncool podcast. Check back every Thursday for new episodes. If there's a topic you think we should discuss on the podcast, leave us a comment or a message and we'll do our best to get to it. Hey, do you think you yourself may be dazzlingly uncool? Well, if you found your way to our podcast, chances are pretty good, or at least that you will be one day. Wear that title with pride. Please consider becoming a Patreon sponsor. If you go to our site at www.patreon.com/dazzlinglyuncool, you can support the show and get access to special members-only benefits. Don't forget, the video version of the podcast is posted on YouTube every Thursday. Check it out. Find out more at www.rockysealmusic.com.